just thought that was such an incredible way to look at it because, I too have been through some things that, maybe I wish I could have avoided. But at the end of the day, they brought me to this place on this podcast with you and being able to talk about things that we love. I don't know that I would have any advice because I do think that realizing what you've been through and what brought you to who you are today should be something that you're proud of, and no regrets. Can't have any regrets. So
I love that. I love that answer. I love that outlook. I think so much of it's just keep going. Like you can't, it
yes.
doesn't make sense at the time. Like it's crazy. Some of the things I think we've done in our lives to get to where we are today. It doesn't make
Mhm.
any logical sense. So it's not going back and saying, hey, you should have done this. Hey, you should have done that. It's
Yeah.
more like,
Keep going.
again, unfold.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
it makes it tough for me as a historian. I always tell people I wish I could be a scientist sometimes and have
Hmm.
lab like, okay, what if I did this? What if I did this?
Yeah.
You're testing different things like in a laboratory. Unfortunately, with history and how the world and how life works, we're not really able to go choose your own adventure, if you will, and see what
Yeah.
happens if you would have done this. I mean, I think when I pass, that would be one thing I would love to maybe have happen is, hey, what if I
Mhm.
would have. Oh, actually, if you took that trip, you got hit by a bus and it was over
Exactly.
quicker, you really
I
know the outcome.
I completely believe everything is meant to be.
Join me, Jeremy Swick, on Into the Unknown, a podcast that delves into the personal journeys, stories, and experiences of individuals across diverse professions. As a historian by trade, I firmly believe that our personal histories shape our present and offer valuable insights into our paths ahead. With that being said, let's get into it. On this episode of Into the Unknown, I am joined with a very special guest, Beth Walker. How are you doing today, Beth?
Doing awesome, Jeremy. How are you doing?
I'm doing amazing. I'm up here in Wisconsin. I'm loving it. Where are you at right now?
I'm in San Antonio.
How's the weather?
Yeah, we actually just had a cold front come through. The last couple days have been absolutely incredible. So like high 70s, nice breeze. It's just been wonderful. But I think it goes back up to the 90s maybe next week already.
Okay,
So
so
it's just a little reprieve.
just a little break, little break.
Yes. But Jeremy, I'm from the Midwest.
Yes,
So I
you
know
are.
what it's like up there. I miss the fall. I miss the summer up there, but I will say come February, I'll be texting you asking how the winter is, and it'll probably be from my back patio. So
It's one of those things, especially winter up in Wisconsin. I like the snow initially, and then after the third or fourth laying of snow, it's like, all right, it can be done now, and I'm ready for spring.
yeah, exactly. I usually get inquiries from family members or friends around end of February saying, "Hey, do you have an extra room? I can come visit." So love it. We love to host people. We love it down here. San Antonio is absolutely home for us. So it's been really fun.
I love that. I love that. I like to kick off the show and talk about the importance of networking. How are we
Yeah.
actually connected?
Yeah. So you and I met actually this last May in Austin, Texas. You were there with USA Club Rugby, as was I. I was actually taking the photographs. You were doing social media. And I have to say, Jeremy, I think we were a pretty awesome team.
I would absolutely agree. I think we had it by the second day, we had such a flow going
Oh,
on. It was incredible.
it was awesome. It was so great. And that was actually such an incredible opportunity for me. So usually I shoot more local events, which Austin is still local to us. It's about an hour away, but to be able to shoot such a large scale rugby tournament was so fun. And it was so wonderful to work with you because it was just so easy. And we teamed up and we got it done. So
And I'll make sure to link it, but your photographs are absolutely incredible as well. I mean, I still have players and coaches and teams talk about just how great those photos were.
oh, thanks, Jeremy. Yeah, it was so fun. It's been so great to be able to kind of push myself and learn new skills, get into sports photography, which, as we can explore, was kind of accidental, but it's just been so much fun to be able to capture a sport that I love and to be able to give that gift to players and coaches and fans. It's just such an honor for me. So it's been great.
Well, let's jump into it. I want to know that comic book issue number one, that origin story. Who are you, Beth?
I mean, if I have to be a comic book character, which I know you're not asking, but I would definitely be Batman because he's got all the gear, which I can see you have gear too. We both know you're a collector of collections, so it's fine. But I love all the gear. I love all my photography gear, all my, you know, fun techie stuff. And so, but how did I become Batman, right? With all my gear. Uh, like most photographers who do portraits, it was to get better pictures of my kids, which are behind me. So I picked up a camera about 8 years ago when my oldest one was just born. And I kind of just fumbled through, shot a lot of images on auto and just had fun with it. It was really to capture some memories for our family, but very quickly I realized it was something that I really enjoyed doing. I liked the art behind it and all the creativity. And also, really, it was so satisfying for me to give that gift to other families. So I took it was like a community ed class in Minneapolis. The guy was like a nature photographer, and I took this class to learn how to work my camera. I had a entry level Nikon DSLR, but a pretty cool lens attached to it. And so I went to this class and essentially just learned how to work the technology. And came home. We had some assignments, and I just started kind of tinkering around with my camera and quickly realized that I liked shooting people versus nature or animals. It just was, it gives me such a sense of pride to be able to capture uh, moments in someone's life. And so I just started shooting families for free. I would, offer these discounts to family and friends. And so it just started growing organically. And that was really what I wanted, was something that was um, just sort of natural in its growth. And so it has been, gosh, it was 2018 that I actually officially started my business. So 6 years as of last month, which is crazy. Um, and I don't think there's a single thing I haven't shot. Um, I've shot branding, I've shot weddings, engagements, and honestly, one of my favorite things I've ever shot, Jeremy, birth.
Okay.
It's absolutely incredible. It's just such a powerful moment for moms. And so that was probably, and much of that was done before COVID when, there weren't so many restrictions in hospitals or birthing centers. But some of my most memorable moments have been in a delivery room with a mom who just birthed her baby. So, uh, and then of course we moved back to San Antonio in 2022. Uh, no, 2021. It's
Okay.
been 3 years. And so we moved from Minneapolis to San Antonio, where we had lived before back in 2012. And we had a large rugby community here. So again, one of those things that you and I really connect on in the sports world. And so uh, we had a large community here, and it was probably the first season I picked up my camera and I said, why don't I shoot some shots for the guys? We'll get some, just action shots of everybody. And so we did that, and I fell in love with it. It's a really difficult type of photography. Obviously, there's lots of movement. There's not second chances to get the money shot. And so it's a really exciting challenge for me to be able to go out on the pitch and get these awesome shots. So this will be my third season shooting San Antonio rugby. Hopefully my second season doing some post season work with USA Club Rugby, which has, again, just been a dream, and it's been so fun for me.
I love that, Beth. What got you into rugby?
Well, I have been married to my husband for 10 years. We celebrated our 10-year anniversary this year. And when I met him, I did not know anything about rugby. I didn't know, had never heard of it. Certainly didn't know its extensive presence in the United States. And so he introduced me to the sport in 2011. And I have been a huge super fan ever since. I believe this is his 20th season playing. 21, he's in the back. He said 21 seasons. So it's just been incredible. He's very involved in not only the local rugby unions and sort of some of that, but now he's on a more national level, representing Texas Rugby Union on some of the board of directors. And it's just been so fun to, like you said, network in the community and just have these incredible athletes that really give their all to the sport while also having these incredible lives outside of the sport. So it's been incredible. I will be a rugby fan for life.
Beth, I couldn't agree more. It's funny. Also, shout out because he does an amazing job with social media as well. I'm loving everything he posts all the time. It's amazing.
Just wait, it'll ramp up when the season starts here, Jeremy. He's got some good tricks up his sleeve. So
I can't wait. It's funny because with rugby being a national sport and we all play in a national league division one, two, three, and four in some instances for men's, and then D1, D2, and D3 for women's as well. Uh, it's interesting. Our season's done. Unfortunately, our team did not qualify for playoffs, but we
mhm.
played a full gamut of like 6 or 7 games this fall, and then of course we have winter, so we're kind of in
Yeah,
isolation until next spring, I guess.
it is so interesting how regionally the seasons are so different because of the weather. Of course, all the games are played outside on a pitch that is usually rented and just kind of wherever the pickup game can happen or, in whatever sense that might mean. But I do think it's very interesting how the seasons are different by region. And then, we all come together in the spring and do playoffs. So sorry to hear you guys didn't make it, but I'm sure you'll be there because,
Of course, of course. I'm
you
looking
got to be.
forward to it. And it goes back to one of the things you had mentioned earlier when starting your business. You were
Mhm.
doing things for free or at a discount just to get more experience and exposure.
Mhm.
What do you think, or why do you think that showed you success?
Yeah, I mean, I think anyone who has a small business where, you're providing goods and services, I think that there is going to be those growing pains, right? Where you kind of have to do things, whether that be observing someone else who's had more experience than you, or sort of giving away some services to just simply get a portfolio of work, or like you said, the experience, which is really the most valuable piece. So much of photography is really connecting with your clients and the people that you're serving, and even in a rugby match, you so much of the photos are candid, right? We're getting action shots and we're getting people on the pitch playing. Uh, but again, there's a point of connection, right? So even being able to connect with the players afterwards when they're all cheering and holding up their trophies from nationals, and being able to capture those raw emotions and making sure that whoever you're shooting is comfortable with you. And so I think that when you start out your business, whether that be in photography or a different sort of service-based business, so much of it is getting experience and learning how to connect with your clients. And so, a lot of that just does happen in the beginning, but also understanding what your worth is, right? So as soon as you get that experience and are able to start charging for services, it's always kind of awkward to either up your prices or set a price. But really, understanding what your worth is as the service provider is, I think really important as well.
I could not agree more. I started my business about
Mhm.
2018 when I started doing social media. And of course, thankfully for Time Hop, it reminds me when I was super pumped that I made like 50 bucks on Fiverr to do a couple social media
Absolutely.
posts. And I shake my head looking at it now, what it was. And I can't believe someone
Yeah.
actually bought it. But it's one of those things, as you mentioned, is getting more and more experience.
Yeah. And really, at the end of the day, people who are successful in these small businesses, I think, are the people who do it, um, not necessarily for the income coming in. I mean, it certainly is helpful, right? A lot of people start businesses and that's their way of providing for their families. And so I understand the pressures of that. But I think with longevity and making sure that you have a successful client base, I think doing it for the love of whatever service you're providing is so important. And for me, it was really connecting with clients who come back year after year. Families that I've shot their newborn photos all the way up to not quite graduation yet, but a lot of these kids are, in now middle school or elementary school. And it's just such an honor to be able to watch these children grow up, watch these families grow. And really, that's why I do it. Certainly not for the price tag, or any sort of tag on social media. really it's about the connection and these families that I've been shooting for 5 or 6 years. So I'm sure you feel the same too. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's fascinating because, as you mentioned, something I realized with the podcast and as a
Hmm.
historian and you as a photographer, we're really storytellers. And I think it's
Yes.
maybe one of the reasons we connected so well
Hmm.
right away. I mean, it felt like I knew you for years the day I got to Texas,
Yeah.
you know?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I think that is spot on, right? So I think photography in general has come a long way. I think many photographers now are leaning into that documentary style and really capturing moments as they're happening versus maybe something that's more uh, posed or staged or and there's a time and a place for that as well. So, but I do think that the storytelling is what drew me to photography and really drew me to even rugby. I mean, that is absolutely a story that we're telling on the pitch, and these athletes, men and women athletes, they get to look back and have these incredible memories of these moments they scored a try or got that really awesome tackle. Uh, so I absolutely am there with you. I love the storytelling piece.
So on everyone's journey, you make a decision, you go east, you go west, not really knowing the outcome. Can you give me a time in your life where you made a decision and went for it?
Oh gosh, yes, I can. It honestly is the moment that we knew we were coming back to San Antonio. Um, my family, I've got a big family up in the Midwest. So I've got, you know, multiple siblings. All of them have children and spouses and all these cousins and, grandmas and grandpas up there. And so really it was a big risk for us to leave. Rob is from New York. He's got a smaller family. He was already living away. But it was a big deal for us to take that leap and, uproot our children and bring them down to Texas. And we've really seen the fruits of that labor, I think, with the community of, in sports. We've got a great school community, but certainly did not come without both emotional and just, lifestyle changes that happened for both Rob and I and for our kids. So really happy to be down here. But, there's definitely some times where, um, you look back at that fork in the road, right? And sort of when you made that decision. So uh, but we couldn't be happier, and we get up to the Midwest quite frequently, especially in the summertime when it's blistering hot down here.
It's a nice little escape, you know.
Yes, yes.
I think one of the beautiful things, and I tell people because I've been fortunate, lived in 7, 8 cities and 4
Yeah.
states. Rugby is such an amazing connector. I mean, I would just go play somewhere
Yeah.
else, and when
Mhm.
I moved down to Atlanta, I had a club there, and those are my guys for life. And it's just so fun because, as you know, as part of the rugby family, you cannot see guys for years, a decade, and then they hit you up, "Hey, you want to be in my wedding?" And you're like, "Of course," because
Exactly.
I know we haven't seen each other in 10 years, but hey, of course I'll be in your wedding.
It is the most fascinating community. I have never experienced anything like that where you really get adopted into a family so very quickly, and it really exactly right. It doesn't matter how long you've been away or where you are in the country. You can walk onto a pitch during a practice and you are welcomed with open arms. Absolutely, families are welcomed. It feels like a community. Um, Really about not just the sport. It's a community about supporting each other and really, the sacrifice that these athletes are making. I mean, it's wild to me that you know club rugby in the U.S. is getting so big and so popular, and these men and women have full time jobs and families, and they go out to practice twice a week and then games all over the country, and uh, it's just incredible. It's the coolest community I've ever seen.
I mean, this is all pro rugby. Obviously, we're both huge rugby supporters. It's
Yes.
been fun for me for my business. Of course, as you know, I do social media for USA Club
Mhm.
Rugby, but my business does whatever it can. I do whatever I can to give back to rugby itself. I never
Mhm.
wanted to be an old boy that just complained about things but didn't put my money where my mouth is. And it was funny. Before this, I was watching the Eau Claire, our small Division 3 school, playing on the rugby network because of the game, the Friday night game of the week. And
Yep.
my logo happens to be on the back of their jerseys, and it's kind of like a full circle moment. I mean, these guys,
Yeah.
I would have been buried on the bench with some of those college guys that they have nowadays. But it's just cool to kind of see that go back and just find ways to, whether it's supporting the USA Eagles. I sponsored one of the
Mhm.
women, Sophie Purr, uh, for her journey as well, and it's just been a
Mhm.
fun way to connect with rugby. As I see my time playing isn't done quite yet, but knowing that there's other ways I can stay involved and connected and not
Yeah.
coach.
Absolutely, and we've seen that here, even in the South Texas communities as well. Just people who have really plugged in, to the sport, not necessarily even on the pitch, but whether that's setting up the field in the morning before the games or, providing food for the visiting team or, fundraising, things like that, or designing merchandise. I think it's just really incredible how much this sport is growing and, how even athletes who, like you said, maybe be retired or no longer, actively playing or, may just be too busy, can still plug into the sport and be really involved. I too sponsored our club this year, so we'll have to get pictures of uh, our logos on the jersey together in the spring. So, yeah, I agree. It's incredible to see the community come together around the sport. So.
Title of the podcast: Into the Unknown. What are you working on? What do you have going on right now?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, so one of my commitments when we moved down here was to really let my business go um, where it was going to go organically. So, really being able to plug into my kids. I do have a full-time 9 to 5 job in IT. So, um, I really wanted at least my photography business to be what it was going to be. I didn't want to shoot out marketing. I didn't want to um, if it was gonna dissolve, it would dissolve, and I was just kinda gonna go with the flow. So as far as big projects, I mean, we are ramping up into the 15 season here, for rugby in South Texas, and so tomorrow, the club has a friendly game in Houston, their first one of the season, and so as soon as that starts to ramp up, I really get to focus my time and energy on shooting the matches, doing a lot of editing for that. I've got a couple weddings coming up that I'm shooting for some dear friends, so it will be a very busy holiday season into the spring of next year. Um, so I again, I kinda like things to just happen as organically as possible, but, definitely rugby is a big, focus of mine over the next 6 to 9 months, which is always fun because, that's, again, like, what we both love. But I have a question for you.
Yes, of course.
Is it time yet? Can I have a question?
Of course, of course.
Okay, okay. So, it's a history question. Are you ready?
Oh, yes, I'm ready.
All right, here we go. What do you think Jeremy Swick is the most underrated 50 years of known history?
Underrated. So you said underrated 50 years of history.
And because, a century, that a lot can happen in a century. Um, I was going to say 100 years, but I think 50 is what I want to go with.
So for me, I would probably say like 1810 to the 1860s. And I say that because of just the boom in technology. We were a little baby state at the time. We're still a baby nation, relatively speaking. We're coming up
Mhm,
on 250 years, but I think that time period right before the Civil War, or maybe right into the Civil War, I think it was one of those times where we were expanding at such a rate, and obviously there was a lot of not good things going on in history in general. But I think to
mhm.
see a nation grow so quickly from that time period. I mean, you have to think. It's funny because I was watching something. No, I was watching Hamilton. Actually, that's what I was doing. Uh,
Oh, yeah.
People forget how young those founding fathers were. They were in their late
Yeah,
20s and 30s, so they were old-ish at the time period. But like,
yeah.
they lived on to, I mean, obviously not Hamilton, but they lived on to be, you know, part of the developing nation. And so I'd say probably like 1810 to 1860 and just all kind of what went on there.
Yeah. I That's awesome. And just even having that conversation about those founding fathers and these political figures in our country's history that were so young. And I don't know, as a mom of elementary age students, I just think about how powerful these upcoming generations really have the opportunity to be. Um, so I love that answer. I think that's so cool. I'm all about our younger generations and empowering them to make amazing political decisions or just be influential in our country. So I love that.
I appreciate it. It's been one of those fun things, and as you know, I was recently at a history museum, local state history conference, and
As the token fun guy.
exactly, exactly. I like to make sure all the historians get out of their shells and have a good
Yeah.
time. We received an award from the governor for our Milwaukee Hip Hop Archive project, and it's amazing. We take students from our organization called True School, and I am
Mm-hmm.
basically training them how to be archivists, how to do museum work, while not they're not attending school for museums. Rather, they're working, earning and learning skills to just make them better human beings and productive members of society. I think that's kind of the goal for anything. But it was so cool to see someone who knew nothing about archiving now being able to process, and it's hip hop, it's local Milwaukee hip hop. So
Yeah.
seeing some of them that are DJs themselves or producers themselves, seeing them interview kind of the OGs of Milwaukee on their
Yeah.
experiences, it was just such a cool way to connect history. And my background's education, and I always try to find ways to be in the classroom without ever being in the classroom again, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that.
What is a piece of advice you'd give to your younger self?
Okay, so this is crazy because I don't know if you saw this social media video by Alona Mars. But of course, we love her. She is an icon, she's a queen. But she actually was just asked this question, and I saw her response, and I was so inspired. And she said, I would probably walk by creepily with a mustache on and, give her a creepy smile just to like throw her off a little bit. But she said, I would just watch because whatever her younger self had been through, brought her and her body to the place that she is today, which she is exponentially proud of and should be. And I just thought that was such an incredible way to look at it because, I too have been through some things that, maybe I wish I could have avoided. But at the end of the day, they brought me to this place on this podcast with you and being able to talk about things that we love. I don't know that I would have any advice because I do think that r- realizing what you've been through and what brought you to who you are today should be something that you're proud of, um, and no regrets. Can't have any regrets. So
I love that. I love that answer. I love that outlook. I think so much of it's just keep going. Like you can't, it doesn't
yes,
make sense at the time. Like it's crazy. Some of the things I think we've done in our lives to get to where we are today. It doesn't make
mhm,
any logical sense. So it's not going back and saying, "Hey, you should have done this. Hey, you should have done that." It's
yeah,
more like,
keep going.
again, unfold.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
it makes it tough for me as a historian. I always tell people I wish I could be a scientist sometimes and have
hmm,
lab like, okay, what if I did this? What if I did this?
yeah,
You're testing different things like in a laboratory. Unfortunately, with history and how the world and how life works, we're not really able to go choose your own adventure, if you will, and see what
yeah,
happens if you would have done this. I mean, I think when I pass, that would be one thing I would love to maybe have happen is, hey, what if I would
mhm,
have, oh, actually, if you took that trip, you got hit by a bus and it was over
exactly.
quicker, you really
I
never know the outcome.
I completely believe everything is meant to be. I'm not one that thinks things are coincidences. So again, I would tell her to keep going, keep doing what you're doing, and learn from the mistakes because really that's all we can do.
I couldn't agree
And
more.
I'm not gonna lie, I thought your last question was gonna be why do I bleed purple and gold? And I was about to like stand my ground. I was ready for the argument.
Here's the thing. I won't hold it against you because you're from the Midwest. you are in fact a Vikings fan. I
I
mean, it's
am.
misguided and kind of gross and a little icky, as I've said. Why are you a Vikings fan?
Well, yeah, I had my answer all prepared, Jeremy. And really it's not even an exciting one. So my grandfather was a big Vikings fan, and they lived in Minneapolis. My mom grew up in Minneapolis, and my dad grew up in northern Minnesota. So we definitely have Minnesota blood. But I actually spent most of my elementary age years in Milwaukee. We actually lived in Mequon, well, which I think we've talked about.
Mhm.
But uh, so when we lived there, there was so much pressure to be a Packer fan, of course. And uh, my parents just stood by their love of the Vikings, even though every year we got disappointed, of course. And I just have stuck by that. I feel like it's my duty to carry on this legacy for the purple and gold. So there you go. And purple's not my color. So I would much rather be a Packer fan. Love green.
One day we'll get you. One day we'll get you. But
No
I
way.
can respect that answer. I mean, I think so much of sports. I always tell people, so much of sports and history. Of course, yes, it's just a game, but it's those memories you have with your family.
Yes.
As you know, my dad was on my last episode, and it really just
Yes.
him talking about how great the Packers were, which is amazing. It's kind of this is the way, but
Well, yeah, I had to come on and stand up for the NFC North.
you guys are doing great this year. I mean, I hope the Vikings nothing but no success whatsoever, and kind of hope they lose the rest of their games this season. But I do
They've
love
been
Aaron
so
Jones, so we miss him a lot. I'm very happy for him as a player. He was always a stand-up guy, and it's bittersweet to see guys move on to that team in the
yeah.
North. Ugh.
Well, we've got a tough one this weekend against the Lions, so we'll have to I'm sure I'll be texting you and with all the purple and gold hearts.
I can't wait for those texts. People want to learn more about your business, learn about you. Where can they find you on social media, on the internet? How do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, that's awesome. So Instagram is really where I get most of my content out there. So you can find me at Bethany Walker Photos on Instagram. I've also got a Facebook page and a website, bethanywalkerphotos.com. So
I'll make sure to link that in the show notes. And I just want to say I really enjoyed talking with you today, getting to know you even more. I mean, we talk quite a bit.
yeah,
It's kind of great. I do enjoy it, and it's always just whether it's sharing memes or talking rugby or
yep,
excited for the upcoming 15th season. It's been great.
awesome. Thank you, Jeremy. It was a pleasure for me as well. I'm so excited about your business and I wish good things.
We'll talk soon.
All right, bye.
That was another fun episode of Into the Unknown. I truly appreciate you taking the time to listen. And if it provides you any value or entertainment, I would love if you shared it with others, liked, subscribed, and really just help the podcast grow. Again, tell a friend, tell a foe, just anyone who might enjoy hearing some stories of people's own journeys and what got them to where they are today. Till next time.